opportunity was also listed in the Florence Reminder and Blade Tribune on April 21st and April 28th. The town received one bid for this project from the Historic Florence Foundation, a 501c3 organization. The foundation currently organizes the Junior Prada, Florence Music Festival, Battle of the Bands, Fox Canyon Balloon and Bluegrass Festival, various fundraising events, weddings, and private parties. Noted in the RFP and the pre-bid meeting was the issue that the current well is inoperable and that the facilities have surpassed or are approaching the end of their useful life and will require major improvements. The RFP also addresses the fact that the town and the concessionaire will have to work closely together to update the Charles Whitlow Rodeo Grounds master plan to meet the community and council's current needs for this facility. As the RFP was written, the concessionaire shall provide 10% of all fees for uses to the town of Florence to be placed in a capital improvement fund for capital improvement projects on the rodeo grounds. During negotiations, the Historic Florence Foundation asked for the following considerations until a permanent water source is in place at the grounds. The foundation would like the town to be responsible for hauling and storing water from the rodeo grounds. From the anticipated events and historical data, staff predict this amount to be approximately $300 to $650 a day, and a total of approximately $14,500 based on the events that the foundation has currently planned out. Staff does not recommend that the town be responsible for hauling and storing water at the rodeo grounds due to the expenses incurred by the general fund. This request impacts public works staff who are paid by the HERF funds. Those dollars will have to be reimbursed from the general fund, impacting either council contingency or the community services special event budget. The Historic Florence Foundation also asked that the town maintain responsibility for sanitation and disposal. The town is not currently billed for rad services at the rodeo ground site. Therefore, there would be no additional charge to the town if sanitation remained under the town of Florence's name. However, the town is bidding for a new contract, which may change the town's agreement for sanitation services. If the town is required to pay for these services, staff recommends this bill be passed on to the foundation. Also, if the Historic Florence Foundation needs additional sanitation, staff recommend that the foundation is responsible for securing and funding the additional services. The foundation would like the town to be responsible for repairs to the existing collapsed well. If awarded, the Historic Florence Foundation and the town will work together to create a long-term plan for the rodeo grounds. The town and the foundation will prioritize choosing a location for the rodeo grounds and finding a water solution at the current or future site, and creating an advisory committee appointed by the town council consisting of 5 members of the public who will provide guidance on key aspects and processes with various prospective community stakeholders. The Historic Florence Foundation would also like to utilize a 24/7 security guard / ground maintenance employee. We did reach out to the BLM, who has no restrictions on a 24/7 security guard / ground maintenance employee. And if the foundation wishes to utilize said employee, that employee would be the responsibility of the Historic Florence Foundation. We do have representatives from the Historic Florence Foundation here this evening, and that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there any member of our council that has any questions or comments at this time? Councilmember Anderson, go ahead.
Yes, I disagree with the recommendation that the town not pay for the hauling of the water. I think the town should pay for the hauling of the water. You know, there was an agreement that was made in 2006. That agreement said that the town would provide water out there. We don't have enough time tonight to go into all the reasons that didn't happen, but it did not happen. But you know, I think it's the town's responsibility to provide the water. So $14,000, I think we should be able to come up with that out of our budget somewhere.
Mayor and members of council, I'd like to address that with the RFP that was issued to the street.
Can you speak into the mic? I'm sorry.
Are we having troubles with our? So I would like to address it in the RFP that was solicited. So what you will find is the RFP did include the concepts that we have a non-operational well. We did also include that the concessionaire hereby accepts the property in the condition
Lisa, we
existing.
can't hear you.
Sorry.
I apologize.
The concessionaire hereby accepts the property in the condition existing for that date. And so we did say non-operational well, we did do that. We're not saying that council cannot make a suggestion that they pay for it, but what we are doing is saying that staff is making the recommendation based on the solicitation and how it was solicited. The vendor has come back and asked for a consideration for council. So if you do a consideration, staff is requesting that you name the dollar value that would be available, and we can determine what funding it comes from, but that it be separate and agreed upon that the dollar value would be until the water issue is resolved. At the point that the water issue is resolved, a meter or a well, and they would be responsible for paying for the water that is used.
Well, if I understood Ally right, it's $14,000. Is that for the year?
Yes, sir. With the events that they have planned out, we think it would be up to about 14,500. We did speak with the foundation in a meeting meeting prior to the agreement, and they believe they can do it anywhere from 7,500 to up to 14,500.
Well, then I would make the recommendation that we set our max budget up to $14,000.
Okay, we have more conversation occurring, but we'll note your recommendation. Councilmember Neal? Vice Mayor said that you were before her. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's heard. Vice Mayor, and then Councilmember Hughes.
So I just want to, just clarification. I do know the answer to this, but I will ask for clarification on the floor because I misunderstood it or don't remember the conversation going the way that I thought it did. I thought that our RFP, we would pay for the water for the town-sponsored events. Any event that was not sponsored or partnershiped with the town, that then the facilitator would pay for their own water. That's how I thought the RFP was going out, but that is not what the RFP said then.
So the RFP, if we go into the RFP, so what you did was you entered into a private contract, a separate contract for the junior parada, in which you are paying for. If you're talking about the old agreement that used to be in place for a former concessionaire, then what it said, the town of Florence would pay for 2 events and provide funding for those 2 events. The 2 events were, at the time, the town of Florence Junior Parada and the CAC rodeo that took place out there. And those were the 2 events that we did pay for the fund. The current contract is for 14 years. Or I'm sorry. The current contract is for 10 years, and the amount that you've asked for us to make available, Councilmember Anderson, is up to $14,000 a year. We would like to make sure that you're understanding that this contract is for 10 years, and the amount of monies that would be available would be until the water issue was resolved.
Clarifying question. And I'm only staying on it because it's the same track. So hang on one second. So clarification, how much do we, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this because I have all my other questions all lined up. So this one is not lined up, so I apologize. So I believe if memory serves me correct, we're paying approximately $5,000, correct?
For the junior parada.
Yes, for the junior Prada.
That is what your contract is.
And if I go to page 92, where it's showing a breakdown, I mean, it even starts over at page 90, and it's talking about 89, and it's talking about the events. Junior Prada, 3-day event, water truck, $52.59 hourly, water truck driver, $37 hourly, $2.50 per 1,000 gallons. But if I flip down to page 93, they're breaking it down to approximately $1,852 needed in regards to providing water to that date. Is that correct?
The council's agreement with for Junior Prada is for $5,000 for the event. It handles so much more than just the water.
Correct.
So we just want to make sure that's perfectly clear.
No, very familiar.
Yes, and so, and I do want to say also that the events that have been happening at the rodeo grounds, the bull riding series, seeing it live on Facebook, that there's more activity at the rodeo grounds right now with a dry well than there has been in many, many years for the town of Florence. So the vendor that has put in the RFP is doing a excellent and a fabulous job, which each one of their individual events that they're coming in and they're seeking special events. And as I said before, town staff, when we put out the RFP, it was so that we would get a partner to be able to come in and plan for and develop a site and also to determine a location. Because half of the reason why we haven't determined the fix on the well is because we have not said that that site is going to be the official site. So staff is waiting for it, the RFP to be issued. So we have a partner that's going to work with us to establish the location of the site as well as the needs and the future use. Because when we plan, we don't want to just have enough water for their current needs. We want it for build-out needs. And we do appreciate what they bring to the table, and we are very enamored by the services that they are providing the community. And I think that stands for all of our staff.
Thank you so much. And actually, that was one of my comments is our town council needs to decide on a site. And we haven't. So anyhow, I'm not going to go further down my list of questions. I just wanted to touch on that one tiny bit. And Judy, Councilmember Hughes, you mentioned at the last event, how many people did you say attended?
800 or 900, was that not correct? Yeah, and that was that was phenomenal. That was a one day event, right?
So my question is, if we are bringing in 800 to 900 visitors, and we're operating in a business type model, how come we're struggling with paying for the water?
I know.
Councilmember Hughes, go ahead.
Well, that was my question, is that we finally found somebody that is family member from the original person that started this. We're the oldest in the nation for junior rodeo, and their heart is right for what it's going back to the kids. And I for one would love to be able to give them a win-win situation for making it work. They're working with no positives. They're working with no water. When I came on in 19, we were told, it was under Parks and Rec, we were told each year that the bleachers are fixed. The well had a problem, but it was fixed. And we found out were not true. And so we have held this problem has been with us for 4 years. And I would love to see a way to change it right now. We have a vendor that their heart is for the kids. And I think that we need to put our money where our mouth is and give them some help.
So if that is the direction of council, then what you would want to do is make your motion awarding the contract and then set aside the specific amount that would be available per year until the day that the water is fixed. And like I said, staff is coming forward with that recommendation based on how we issued the RFP. And we understand that council has the ability to contribute if they would like to.
Well, I was reading the RFP and I'm amazed they even brought it back in, because I wouldn't have signed the thing. It says you're going to take everything, equipment as is, nothing works, as is, where is, in the condition, but when you leave, you have to be, it's got to be a punch list with the town, with a certified person to fix everything that's wrong. And I'm like, wow, that's so unfair.
Mayor Walter, Councilmember Hughes, I will say that the other part of that is that there's a planning effort within the document that states that CIP projects will move forward with the town helping to pay for those. So we plan them together, we build them together. Town is paying for most of it. 10% of the cost is coming from the events that they're holding. Those items are being tagged as tagged properties. If anything, I could say that if we're not learning from our past, then shame on us. The way that we have presented this to the world in the RFP, as well to the council as well as to them, is that we're going to have an open and honest relationship where we're putting things on the table, and that's what we have done. The condition is an as-is condition. The well does not work, and we are going to have a partner where we're going to come in and plan for the future. And when they leave, there will be town dollars that go in. There'll be sweat equity, monies from them that are raised at their events that go in, but it'll be a real partnership. And the important part of the board that will be established is to make sure that no member of council, no member of the public can ever say we didn't know what the condition of the grounds were, because those meetings will be just like any other board. They will be public and will have insight, and that'll make sure that they get into the CIP planning process and that council is aware of what's happening at all times. And we're looking forward to having a great partnership.
I just want to tell you that in 19, it was under the CIP. All these things were exactly what you're saying. So we have to back up what we say. So it brings up another situation, is that I know that there's some discussion on where the rodeo ground needs to be, but they're making it work where it's at.
I like where it's at. I've already said that.
I like it where it's at too, and I would love to say, yes, we want them to have it, but just so that we can get that well fixed. We need it where it's at right now for another 10 years at least. And it's in a perfect position where it's at. That way we can move forward, we can and do we have money for the well in the budget?
I'm happy to bring that item back up to a future meeting where I can have the team come forward and you can select the site, because right now what's on the agenda is the Charles Whitlow Rodeo Ground. And so what I'll need to do is I'll need to bring that item back, and then I'll need to talk to the finance department, talk to Public Works Director, Mr. Solis, and sit down and come up with the creative plan. We're still underneath the permanent expenditure limitation where we are this fiscal year. So I definitely need to see where we are, what monies we have available, but I can bring that all to a future meeting, and I'm happy to do so.
So today we're just trying to
Determine if they are the concierge or not.
that was my thing.
Councilmember Mendoza, and then Rodriguez.
Now, I've noticed that you guys are being very successful out there with events. So, I'm reading here, you have the potential to recruit other outside agencies for events. What's going to happen when we don't get those? Are we going to come and ask for more money, or how are we going to take care of the matter of expanding, especially if we go for a 10-year contract?
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, thank you. Councilmember Mendoza, thank you for that question. The Historic Florence Foundation is excited to take this project on over the next 10 years. No, we do not have any plans to come back to the town to ask for any funding to help us put on, promote, and support any of the activities that we have planned to hold there. So far, we have held several events on site that have been very successful, both in participation and financially. It has cost our foundation every dime we've taken in order to put those events on. Thousands of gallons of water we've hauled ourselves to ensure that the events that have been planned out there, there was water for the restrooms, there was water for dust control, there was water for the arena, there was water for livestock, and we made that happen. The question on the table right now is, without the water, our foundation cannot support that facility. The cost of that would just be too much. And again, I know it was brought up, that well has been down for many years, and rightfully so. The facility has been deteriorating since that's happened, because without the water, you can't expect for that facility to continue to host events that will bring people into this town. I've had several conversations with different organizations, the latest one being Queen Creek, who have been holding their event here year after year. But they were very clear with me, without water this year, they would not consider Florence as a location to hold their junior audit. We have been speaking to other organizations to try and increase the amount of events that are had at the facility. Everybody loves the site location. Lots of room for parking, lots of room to maneuver around. It's a great facility as far as the size of the arena. The conditions, of course, have been, as you know, deteriorating. But with a plan in place and hard work and effort, we can bring this back to a facility that I believe any pro rodeo association would love to come to. So I hope that answers your questions. If you have any more, I'd be glad to answer.
Well, I was just curious if that was going to be enough. I mean, I think the council wants to support this, so, whether it's there or anywhere. I've always been a proponent to moving it, because I believe that we need to make a nicer, bigger facility, something a little closer to support the town a little bit. If we can find another way to support putting in a well and then using that afterwards, if we decide to move it, then I'm good for that. If not, if we decide not to move it, then by all means we need to start making some changes to where we do have the facilities to support.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. You guys have done.
Can't hear you.
You guys. Okay. I just wanted to say thank you again for coming out. I know you guys have done a lot of great work in the town, and appreciate everything that you've done with bringing people into the community, as well as to give our citizens something fun and exciting to do. It was my biggest concern, obviously, similarly, is the water. When it comes to moving it or not moving it, which is sort of another point of discussion, my thoughts is that I'd like to have something more permanent, something that's buildable. I don't like the fact that it's state land that's not ours, never will be ours, and that we can't do anything with it, nor is it really a partnership, because they're not going to be willing to build on it, to partner with us to build the facility. So that was my thought process, just to build off of what Judy was saying about moving it or not moving it. So I think that while it's all up in the air, some of the questions I had related back to, you said there's 800 or 900 people at this last event. What kind of admission are you charging, and is it going to be consistent moving forward?
These the last two events, we kind of just wanted to kick it off. We knew we weren't going to profit much money. It's $10 a carload. We're trying to keep it very reasonable. People are hurting. People, inflation's gone up, so we're thinking, well, let's make it really reasonable. Let's just get people out there to have a good night and forget about everything else that's going on at home. So, the last two events, the 900 people would include the contestants as well, and they don't pay. There could have been 800-900 people, but we were so busy working the event that we don't really get to see much of what's going on anyway. But our whole mission is to make family events enjoyable and reasonably priced. We could see what's going on in the valley. A lot of events, $80, $90, $35 a person. We don't want to do that. We want to put a nice event on for a decent amount of money and let everyone enjoy themselves. So that goes back to answering, where's the profit? Well, there wasn't much. We had to pay stock contractors, and there's a lot that goes into the small rodeos and large rodeos. So that's my answer.
And just to build on that, never was intending to say that we should be making a profit on the back of our citizens for something that they should be enjoying. So that was never my direction that I was trying to go with. But at some point, you do have to have a cost balance of things that will need infrastructure to be able to reinvest it for the next project.
And that's coming.
Okay, so that sort of leads to the water discussion. To me, it seems very fair that we do support you when it comes to the efforts of the water, but it seems to me that when I'm thinking about any contract negotiations, that maybe would split something of that type of cost, or maybe have a maximum dollar amount. Having the maximum dollar amount of $14,000 when you're saying sometimes it could be $7,000 for the year seems like we might, obviously be covering the whole thing. To me, there needs to be a cost share in it. Obviously, we want to be able to support you as best we can, but also that's where, business comes in as far as making sure you're being able to reinvest in the next project, but also not coming at the expense of other projects. And I know that obviously the rodeo grounds is going to need a lot of work, whether that's at its current location or moving to a new location. So I feel like we're going to be obviously picking up quite a bit of heavy lifting too, regardless of what that looks like. But just sort of planning that we're a partnership and that we want to work together with you, and that means that you're at the table just as much as we are when it comes to the future growth of the rodeo grounds. So
Don't go anywhere yet. All right, so I have a few things. You answered the question about the water, and I'm same angle as her, just so you know, we're all on the same page. I was looking at it saying, wow, you guys, I've seen the Facebook post. I've been out there in person. I've seen the amount of people that have been out there. So that's why I looked at it and said, okay, well, if our long range goal is for it to be sustainable, my understanding is it can be. Yeah.
Yes.
I do like, and I just want to say this next fact just for everybody, because somebody had asked me the question before, so I'm just going to put it here. It's already answered in the documents. Somebody said, well, if you're, in collaboration with them, like, are the books open? How do you know, like, they're being open and transparent? And I said, it's easy. It's already in our contract. It's there. Our town staff, finance works with you guys. That transparency is there going both ways. Because as I understand it, and again, this is before all of our time on council, actually, yeah, literally all of our time before council. Prior, when it was with a different organization, there wasn't that communication and collaboration that should have been there the entire time. It might have been on a few here and there, but not consistently. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. We also went through, and I wanted to make note, on page 103, it talked about like the Rodeo Advisory Committee. So we want to make sure that that is up and running. And again, that's going to assist with the communication and the transparency. Council, we need to get it on the agenda upcoming soon. I want the site finalized. We need to stop kicking the can down the road, and we need to say where the rodeo grounds are going to be, commit to it, put it in a CIP, and move forward. Third, I had a question for Ms. Garcia. When I'm looking at the bullet point on page 66, it says the Historic Florence Foundation asks that the town of Florence maintain responsibility for sanitation disposal. God bless you. It goes on a little bit. Is our agreement changing with, no, it's not RAD, it's the government. BLM, is our contract with BLM changing in any way?
No, and in fact, just to make it clear, is once the town of Florence has a patent on a site and we're using it for recreation services, the town council would have to say they did not want it, or we no longer wanted it there to be, go back. And then we would either choose to file a different patent type, or we would choose to give up the land. But the land has been secured and is secured.
Okay, then is there a reason why we would change out that garbage service? Because I was reading it and it said,
The garbage service is a different area, and the town of Florence is going out to bid for all garbage service. So when we come back in, if our service changes and our costs change, then we'll go back in and we'll be looking at that. Until we go out for RFP, until we have other agencies or other firms that are coming in and bidding for it, we do not know what the exact dynamics will be of our new sanitation contract.
now I understand. Thank you for that clarification. Did you have a piggyback question?
Oh,
Hang on, Rodriguez and then Hughes.
so piggyback question. You brought up the patent. Fully aware of that. My vision personally with the rodeo grounds is to have a true partnership. It's great to have I can't remember the word, concessionaire. That's the word. To be able to run the facilities and do all of that. So your position is fantastic. I would like to have other, I don't want to call them advertisers, but other sponsors to where they can help, where they own the land, maybe we own the land. I don't care. Somebody owns the land, somebody owns the facilities, but we've got partnerships that are bigger than just the town of Florence, or bigger than, something that is just one person. You know what I'm saying? It's something. So when I have the vision of the rodeo grounds, I have the vision much bigger than that. So that's why I don't like the BLM land, is because the state is never going to come down and help us financially or physically build the rodeo grounds, regardless of us having the patent for it. So that was why I have an issue with that location. So that's a whole, again, sidestep, but just FYI, that's where I'm from with that.
Councilmember Hughes, did you have a piggyback on that?
The 14,288 does include the trash, right? I think it was water, and the monthly 112 was in that 14,288. Is that correct?
Yes, the town currently isn't billed for that
But
service.
that will take care of the garbage.
Correct. And anything above and beyond that, we've talked with the foundation, and they would be